Woo, it's been a day. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hard 100, a video series documenting the culling of my collection from what it is to what it's going to be. And that's a Hard 100 games. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are here to talk about a game by a designer who is loved, who makes, I believe, to be the largest games, not only in scope, but in box and stuff. This has been my first exposure to the designer, and it's really interesting to see a game that I recognize to be very, very good, but man, do I not care. Ladies and gentlemen, get it together. Escape Plan. Escape Plan by Mr. Vital Lacerda and Eagle Griffin Games is a game in which you or a handful of players are trying to get all your money and get the fuck out the city as quickly as possible without being arrested. This game is huge. The box, as you can see, is giant. Where's my head? It's bigger than my head. A lot of things are. It is huge. This game is the table space alone. This board is crazy. The components are wonderful. It is just a feat of game design that I have never seen before. Now, what this game has you doing is on your turn, you're doing basically just kind of action selection. You have a certain number of actions and you're doing them. At the beginning of the round, you're going to get your money. The money is listed on your player board and it is very well done. Dual layered player boards are the thing of the future. Game designers, game companies, if your game doesn't have a two-layer player board anymore, hey, go back to the 90s where you belong. So once you get your income, which is the highest number on the income track that you can see, you take that money and you put it in your little player bag board. Then we are going to patrol. This is where we draw a couple of cards to help narrow down where the plan we are escaping from is gonna be. So at the beginning of the game, there are 6 cards, 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s, and you remove one, but you don't know which. So at the beginning of the round, you're going to show 2 of them, and if 2 are ever shown at the same time, you put a stack of tiles on that to show that it's not the actual exit, and you can do other things there as well. Then, as a company, we will help build the city. At the top of the board, if you can find the space, there are 4 stacks of huge tiles, and you are going to put those and orient them on the board in certain ways, and then if there are spaces on them, you're gonna have to put certain businesses and things on there. These are the businesses where you have chosen to hide your money. Once that is done, we will determine player order based on the infamy, the notoriety that we have attained throughout the game. And if you're ever tied, you just switch places, whatever, turn order is turn order. And then we go to our player actions. Now, as complicated and as thinky and complex as this game is, it's actually quite simple on what you can do. On your turn, you can rest, where you flip over all your shit back to the non-flip side. Or you can move. And that's it. Whenever you move, you will travel a certain number of spaces. You will avoid the police meeples that are spread throughout the board by usually taking damage or using an item that you have equipped to mitigate that damage. And then you will visit a place. You have to start on a space, a building of some kind, and then end on a building of some kind. You can't end in the streets because they're hunting for you. And everything in this game is explained in the rule book in a very thematic way of why you can and can't and should do things. Very well, very clever, wonderful. And then when you visit a place, depending on what kind of place it is, you can either do the action on the space, which is some version of healing or getting money or things like that, or pulling money out of a business that you have put money in before, like laundering money. You're gonna have to go to a place to get money for points at the end of the game or to get money now. And once 2 people have gone to a business that closed down, the only way you can get in is a key. The only way you get a key is by going to the convenience store. Everything layers together and clicks together pretty well, and it's actually kind of nice. And while you are doing these things, if you ever visit a place where someone else, there's 2 criminals and you get notoriety, and between every player's action, you adjust notoriety to move up and down the player track, and you could be attacked or some bad things could happen, etc., etc. Most of these things will have you pulling contact cards. The contact cards are a group of cards at the top of the table, and you put those on your player board, and these will give you actions to like heal and kind of manipulate the board and aspects and get money and just extra stuff. My favorite one of them, you can hire gangs, and then you can do executive gang actions like having them steal a helicopter or go fight some police to kind of keep them off your back. The police There's no way to get rid of the police. You can move them around the board, but there's no way to get rid of them. They're going to be on your tail throughout the whole game, and that's something we didn't notice till towards the end. What you do with the businesses on the board are determined by your escape plan card you get at the beginning. Every person that has an escape plan card will show the maximum amount of money you can get from going to a place for at the end of the game, and it's kind of a hidden scoring thing, or the money you get immediately. And when you go to the convenience stores, you can get gas to help you move farther, farther. Or you don't get the keys at the convenience store, you get the keys at the safe houses where you could also have money locked up, and you want to get to a certain number of safe houses, because if you get to all the safe houses and all the businesses in a group, you get additional bonuses, like additional actions you can do at night, because you only have 3 or 4 actions during the day, but if you want to do the extra ones, you have to have gotten an action disc earlier in the round. God damn, it's a lot. There's also tiles, and just everything that you can get in this game is just, it's so much. But really, all you're doing is moving around a board to try to manipulate your income and money to get items and shit so you can get out of town. So all the game has you doing is on your turn, resting, moving, and doing the thing. Now the mechanics of it are fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's very solid. I can't fault anything in the game. So why do I not like it? Escape plan is sugar-free soda. Stay with me. So what you have is you have a game that is delicious. You're chugging it down. Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so good. But then whenever you stop and you go, there's like this aftertaste, something that's stuck with you. They're like, oh, I don't like that. I better start drinking more of the soda so I don't have to taste that anymore. But eventually, you're going to run out of soda. And then you're just going to be stuck with that aftertaste. 2 things. 1, setup, takedown, a goddamn nightmare. Insert, wonderful. Beautiful. The game itself, before we get into that, let's get into some housekeeping. Ages 14 and up. Okay, yeah, goddamn, it's complex. 1 to 5 players. Now, I did not play it solo. We played it with 3 people, because when you play it with 1 person, you have 2 AI controlled players. You play it with 2, you have 1 AI controlled person. And it seems like a neat idea, but it seems like a lot of extra stuff to keep track of when I'm already trying to figure this shit out on my own. And then 60 to 120 minutes. 2 hours. Our game took, oh God. Our learning game took about 2.5 hours. To set up the game took 30 minutes. To pack everything away took another 30 minutes. So you are dedicating 3+ hours of your life to escape plan. Okay? How much is your time worth? There are games out there that have certain win-loss conditions. A lot of co-op games will be, oh, if you lose, then you lose. Cool. So we could be playing the game for 45 minutes and all of a sudden we pandemicked and then we died. In Eldritch Horror, you've been playing the game for 2 hours, you finally reached the old one, but now deaths are permanent, so everyone dies and you lose, haha. But usually you lose together. Looked at a game recently called Gugong, which had a condition that if you didn't make it to the Emperor, you automatically lost no matter what your score was. Okay, but throughout the game that gave you plenty of opportunities to get to the Emperor before the end of the game, and the only way you were not getting there is if you actively avoided it. Phil accidentally got to the Emperor on the last turn, and he was never trying throughout the whole game. There are just certain things in the game that will push players up. Escape plan has a thing where you don't know where the exit is until the very last round of the game, and it costs money to leave, which is fine. Getting money in the game is actually kind of difficult. If you don't make it out of the city, you automatically lose, no matter what your score is. If you're the first person out of the city, you get to leave free of charge. If you're the second person out of the city, you have to bribe someone to get out. But if you don't make it out by the end of the 3rd day, out. Don't count up your score. No one cares. And whenever you just spent 3 hours of your life for this experience, to have it nulled by, admittedly, maybe some poor planning on our part. Because I understand that, oh, if you would have played better, you would have gotten this. True, and it's a learning game, and the purpose of a learning game, I feel, is twofold. Fold 1 is to learn the game, but fold 2 is to do everything you can in that first game to make me want to play it a second time. And now that I've seen that this 3 hours of my time is possibly to be wasted by not even getting to give you my score, seems a little anti-thematic. It explains it thematically as, oh, you were caught. Every fucking cop in this game is corrupt. Everybody. So why is it at the very end of the game I can't just pay extra money to get out or have to pay a double penalty to get out? I'd probably still lose the game, but at least my score would count for something. So the reason why this one kind of missed the mark on the do a thing or else you lose completely thing, and Gugong kind of didn't, is that Gugong was like throwing a water balloon at the side of a barn. You're gonna hit that. You just gotta hit the barn, you're fine. The only way you're gonna mess it up is if you and didn't even make it to the barn, literally. This one is more like throwing a dart at a balloon. You have a much greater room for error, and that target is a lot smaller, and it's a lot more difficult to plan for, especially if someone else is planning better than you, and if a game of 3 up to more players, someone at the table is probably planning better than you, and I don't want your time to be wasted. Escape Plan left that diet soda taste in my mouth to where I was like, I don't think I want to have this experience again. And I hate that because I know this is not a bad game. It is a great game. It's just not a game for me. It has not turned me off to this designer at all, because I see all these ideas and I feel like almost that decision was thematically driven and not mechanically driven. And with everything being as thematic as it was, you know, I can't fault him for that. This game, I mean, he got my money, so who cares? I also have CO2, and I'm really looking forward to playing that. But I did cancel my On Mars Kickstarter because A, Phil's getting it, and this is the type of game that if you have a friend that owns it, you don't need to own it as well. It's a lot. But like I mentioned, it doesn't turn me off to him. I still want to play the Gallerist. I think that game looks amazing. I have no interest in Vinos because I already have viticulture and I really like that idea. I don't need a super complex version of making wine. And Lisboa actually looks really good. This may have been my first taste, but it gave me an idea of what it could be. I am never playing Escape Plan again. It is out of my hard 100. It's a big ass box. It has no room on my shelf. It has no place on my shelf, which is a goddamn shame because it is beautiful. But I don't want to spend 3 hours of my life that I might not ever get back. Only maybe because I'm not as good at your game as I should be right out the gate. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not right for my shelf. It may be right for yours if you're looking for some chunky ass thing and you have a king's table. Also, this is another one of those games that you need to have set up at the beginning of your gaming day. The rules explanation is pretty easy. It's an easy game to explain. It's a fun game to play, but I don't feel like it did anything that I can't find elsewhere for less setup and more worthy of my time. Good game though. Fine game. Really fine game. This is probably the best game that I've ever played that I am not keeping in my collection, which should say a lot right there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not right for my shelf, as I mentioned. Thank you so much for joining me on this, the latest edition of the Hard 100. I hope you and yours are well. Peace out.